Hello ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, my name is OctoMan and this is a tutorial, or not a tutorial, more like a quick live talk about how prototyping works, like prototyping for games. And I'm gonna wait a minute or two until some people are going to join over here so we can have probably a good chat next to this as well. So, and I estimate the time for this is going to take like 10 to 20 minutes, depending on how active you guys are going to be, like in the chat. So feel free to, ask me any questions whenever you like. And please, meanwhile, this talk is going to run over here. So, a pretty quick overview about prototyping. What the heck is prototyping overall in case of games? So, prototyping means nothing else than we're gonna create some kind of a prototype, like car designers are going to create prototypes of their cars and send them into a wind tunnel to see if the car works and so on and so forth. With games, it's basically about the same. Meaning, we're gonna do this prototyping stage whenever we have a new game idea and we want to find out if the game idea is actually, let's say, useless, or does it work or does it not work. Also, we probably, or most of the time, only do prototyping whenever a game never has been created beforehand, or you have some special features which you want to implement probably in a game you already have created beforehand. So, and there are multiple approaches for that, and let's start rather quick, or let's say talk about the identify process first. So, first off, we want to know, okay, what is the game idea we are going to have about? We want to identify the actual problems we're gonna have, and meanwhile, we are going to identify that, we're gonna take notes. So, we write down like every information about this. We are going to write down like all the ideas we're gonna have. Something like we want to create. I got a request, and also I did some requests in general to you guys about like the what you are interested in case of the basics of game design and stuff like that. So that's why, by the way, this video or this live stream is happening. So for example, you want to create a board game. So you write down, okay, this is going to be a board game, and whenever you have like whatever the goal is, you want to identify the goal of the game and write it down as well. What does it mean is, meanwhile, this process, we want to make sure that we type or write down each goal you're gonna have in mind. Also, you want to write down something which is going to actually, let's say, cut the something inside the actual area. We're going to talk about this in a second again. So what means is you want to put some traps maybe on the actual board game. So whenever somebody lands on a specific field, you want to do something on this field, like you want to, I don't know, send him back to the start or wherever he came from, something like this. Or you're gonna do something like, okay, we want to move from this stone or this node or area of field to another area of field. And what we want to do is we want to write all of that content down. Also, you can always go and do the paperwork, draw some kind of a map together, so you're gonna get an idea about what you really think this game is going to be about. So, and we want to make sure that we don't waste too much time in each of these four processes. So we're going to go first with we identify what we want to create, we write it down, and then we go into the next stage, which is going to be the building stage. So what does it mean is we build a prototype based on the information which we already have written down, and we want to build it super small, super simple. No stuff, actually, no like unnecessary things we want to build in. So, for example, what is the most important thing we identify in our board game is probably the movement. So, what we want to build first is the movement. How do we want to move the players around the board? How does all that stuff should work? And whenever we know what we need to build, we can split this up into super small but super quick uh, things. And what we're gonna do is, whenever the movement is done in the board game or whatever game, once again it is, we're gonna review that. So we go to the next stage. We're gonna see, okay, what did we do? What did we actually created in this prototype already? What did we have built? And when we are done with building that, we need to review and see, is that good or is that bad? So depending on if it is good or bad, we're gonna see, okay, do we need to or do we want to keep this movement or not? In this particular stage and the review stage, whenever you're probably not happy about the result, and then you wanna go and iterate. Also, you can, meanwhile, in this stage, we are just building the movement. In this case, we review the movement, then we want to iterate. If we think that is a horrible idea, how our game stones are going to move, like we want to do something different, then we once again go back. We want to iterate the process for this movement. So what we do is we go back, we identify the problem which we need to solve, then we build in the actual stuff, then we review again, and we're gonna see rather quickly, just from a super big identification process, we go step by step. We're gonna build the prototype for the movement, then we go into the review. We're gonna see, okay, that works, that's nice. Then we go and take the next goal. So basically we go through our list of goals which we want to do, something like, okay, now we have the movement, what do we need to have next? Do we need the trap next? Do we need to have something where we can kick another player from a specific field? What's going to happen when multiple players are landing on the same field, and so on and so forth? You want to go through that. So what we do is we take our complete idea, we identify the complete content, we're gonna create the content. If content does exist already, we basically don't need to prototype this anymore, because somebody else already approved that a specific concept, like for Ludo or for different card games, you don't need to go back into the prototyping stage, because that doesn't make sense overall. But let's assume you don't want to create a board game, but you want to mix it up. Like you want to mix content or a specific game area or game theme, I would say, with another theme. Like, for example, you want to make a racing game with puzzle content inside. I don't know how that could work, but just think about it. You want to create a game where you basically do the racing, but you want to solve puzzles meanwhile you're racing. I don't know. So how could you actually get these things together? So does a game exist already? In your identification process, you want to know if somebody else had such an idea already, and see, was it good or was it bad? So whenever that happens, you know that probably that doesn't exist. You once again go into that. You're gonna first do the movement of the car or whatever you're moving, whatever you're racing with. Then you build the process or build the prototype, just a super simple one. You don't even need to have 3D or 2D models or graphics or stuff. You just want to see if the content you're creating is going to work. Once again, you go through that, you iterate through, and you can rather quickly see if a racing game with the puzzle idea you probably had before is going to work. This is what prototyping is for. You identify if a game makes sense or not. So meanwhile, we are building the prototype. We're gonna go to each content you have. Like you split a big goal into small goals, like goal 1, goal 2, goal 3. But you want to make sure that you only add content which is really, really important. Meaning the basics of the game idea behind this. Like, once again, the movement. You don't need sound. You don't need any strange graphics. You don't need 2D or 3D graphics. Not even if the game is aimed to be a 3D game. You don't even need to make use of 3D models and stuff. You can even take 2D stuff and just drag it around, see if it works. There's also by the way, another way to prototype things is using paperwork. For example, you make some notes on a paper, you maybe cut it out with a scissor, and then you just, paint a board or whatever, the game area onto a sheet of paper, and then you, let's say, take one sheet of paper and you drive it through something to get your riddles solved. Meanwhile, you're going to race the game. I have multiple ideas, or would have multiple ideas about it, but to test it and see if that really works, you're gonna need to test it. And of course, somebody else needs to do this as well. So With all of that, now we are going to once again into the review stage, meaning we are reviewing what we have built so far. Meaning, you're gonna go and take whatever you just created in the past, like, okay, you did the movement on the board game, or you did the racing behavior, whatever is necessary. You can race along a track or something, or you just drive forward, basically, doesn't matter. And when that works, you go and actually update it. Like you iterate through the complete process, go once again back to the beginning, but not for that. Whenever the review is okay, great, and racing works nice. Let's see how we can implement the puzzle idea behind all of that. So, how do you actually make a puzzle? Do you put it on a track? Do you put it like, I don't know, anywhere? And how can you actually how can the player understand what they need to do? So all of that, you can have the fanciest ideas, by the way. You can even, I don't know, create so much funny things over here. I'm gonna go and show you an example in just a second what you could do. So, for example, if you start with a game board, for example, you want to make sure that, for example, you have a start field and a win field. And so what you need to have is like, okay, you want to create a track or a field which explains what actually is going to happening. You can even do this over here, like in 2D, just a 2D program. I'm using Inkscape most of the time for planning things ahead and stuff like that. I write stuff together because I can also print like or paint like boxes and spheres and see if a sphere would do this and that, can happen. Do I use physics or not? Is it important or not? And so on and so forth. So I can rather simply go through the complete process and check out how prototyping or how this can actually work. Of course, you need to have knowledge about programming in the end because, well, you want to make sure that all the necessary goals you want to achieve, you are actually able to, solve the problems, solve the goals, iterate through, just take one small problem, solve it, then go to the next one. And then, of course, go forward. So you need to have, of course, a bit of knowledge, but you can already, once again, test your game idea before you go actually into the full process of game creation. So what to avoid? Once again, is you want to avoid heavy graphics. Like, you don't want to have like expensive 3D models and stuff like that because you don't know if that are going to be the final models, and you don't want to waste too much money or even time or both for just the prototyping stage. Of course, what you can do is you can, for example, take like small assets you have probably created in the past, like things which might give your prototype a little beef, like a camera shake or some simple particle effects which you probably have in a library somewhere. Then you can drag them into, see if they make sense in any manner, and try to give the actual prototype, a bit more of a beef. So you also, if really sound is not important over here, want to avoid using sounds. As well as menus, you don't need a menu to test if a game is good or not. So you just want to create the pure, blank, easy, absolute, abstract content. You want to create just super simple, absolute basic ideas inside the game over here. So basically that's everything you need to know about prototyping. Let me show you something which I created for a course. And what I did is I just simply put together ideas for a game I wanted to create, or for a course I wanted to create, and I wanted to think about what's going on over here. So how do I want the player to interact with the game? How do I want to plan that? What should happening the whole time? So as you can see, I just decided to make a portrait mode over here, like for a mobile device, for example. What I thought about, okay, where could I put score, where could I put lives, and I don't care about how they're actually going to use or make use of. But then I decided, okay, when I have some kind of a trap area, like a red area, what's going to happen is when my player, my little ball, falls into that, I'm gonna lose a life. Of course, there are multiple other mechanics which are implemented implemented, or I'm gonna implement over time. Then I put the ball over here back again, but what's going to happen next? Because there's also going to gravity going on, the player constantly falls down, so I need to lead him anyhow through to get some score, and so on and so forth, and survive as long as possible in some kind of an endurance game, like those runner games, or in this case, it's basically the same. So what you want to also avoid is that he is not able to pass the left and the right side. So this can be some kind of a concept you are actually able to produce on your own, just to get an idea about it. Is it nice? Is it bad? Then, okay, how do I move the player actually? Well, we are using the gravity and we want to paint some kind of a line or something over here just to let the ball fall down, get score over here, and then we lead him with this paint or ink or whatever into the correct directions. And later on, you're going to create like multiple prefabs and so on and so forth. But that is not the initial idea about the prefabs. We want to make sure that we know what we want to create and plan ahead however we want this to happen. So what we're also gonna have is another mode where we, for example, have a goal area. So we define a goal. We wanna do basically the same over here. We wanna make sure that we are able to paint. We're gonna bring the player as the gravity is rolling down over here. We wanna make sure that we navigate him, the player itself, like the ball over here. We navigate it around the traps, around everything. We don't wanna go downwards over here. We don't want him to pass over here or even at the top. We just want to make sure that he's anyhow able to solve the riddle or the actual physical based puzzle, I would say. So there can be multiple things of traps and stuff like that. You can put super fancy mechanics inside over here, like things which are able to rotate whenever the ball falls above it or below it or whatever, or just touch that. It can swing, it cannot, it can, there are hundreds of possibilities and so on and so forth. So this is what you're going to do before you start to actually build the prototype for your game. Once again, you don't need any graphics. You can just use a simple sphere, as something simple for the paint. You can take a look into multiple things over there. You can get some ideas. How would I solve the problem to paint some line over here? How can I make it so that the player reacts to the paint? And how can we actually get the score, and so on and so forth. So all of that is necessary before you go into the prototyping stage. So you try to get the idea, then you bring it onto a sheet of paper, or you're gonna bring it over here. You can even just take the graphics you're gonna super simply create over here, bring them directly into a game, or just print them and see what's going on over there. Of course, printing just tests the idea, but printing, like when you print this on a sheet of paper and cut it out and stuff, what's not going to happen is basically you do not get the idea behind what can I do, what can I make the mechanics or around this game overall. So what can we do, and so on and so forth. You need to go and start building that thing. So first, of course, the most important one is going to be, how do I move the player? And so this is like, now when we are going back once again into the list over here, we need to identify what is the problem, and then we build the problem. So how to move the player. Then we review that. If we like the idea behind it, we're gonna go forward. If we don't like the idea, then we try to, let's say, optimize it. And can this game be fun or not? Well, you can later on go into testing mode, where you're gonna send your alpha idea or something to somebody, and they say, oh yeah, that's a good idea, or even not. So you can get some beta tester or alpha tester, basically, or prototyping testers. Just write them, send them a mail. Let's say, oh, okay, hey, can you please check my new prototype out? This game is going to work this and that. Give some small tutorial or whatever. Just write down what they have to do, and then just get some feedback, because that is a super important process. Meanwhile, prototyping here as well, because you can like your build, you can like your review stage over there. So it is always better to get some other people into the boat. Here, come on, please install this on your whatever phone, or just get the copy over here. Please test it out. Tell me what you think. What would you wish to have inside and what not? Get some feedback, and then you're able to prototype even faster. So in the end, I would say a prototyping stage in the total manner shouldn't take longer than, let's say, 5 to 7 days, like working days, like 4 of 8 hours of work, probably less, of course, depending on how much time you got and how much time you want to invest into this. Sometimes it goes faster, depending on how small or how big the ideas behind all of that are going to be. So, and that's basically everything you need to know about prototyping. I don't go into Unity right now since, well, this is like more how we gonna get the ideas together. We don't go inside the building stage right now because it doesn't make sense because I don't have anything to show off right now. So in the end, it's like when you go and do a card game, then how would you or where do you place things? How do you want to handle these cards and so on and so forth? You're gonna split the idea once again into multiple smaller goals you want to reach, which are absolute necessary for the prototyping stage. You don't go into graphics. You just take boxes and spheres, just move them along and around and see if they are actually working. Give them the correct components. Like if you work with gravity, then you're gonna put the rigid bodies and so on and so forth, or the collision object, and see if that triggers, and if that does happen, is it too fast, is it too slow, is it good, does it feel good, and so on and so forth. All of that is what prototyping is actually about. So, and that's everything I wanted to cover in this. So, whenever you have ideas and so on and so forth, just bring them onto a sheet of paper, then split them into multiple single or small goals, and then iterate from the point of review. So, you first off check it out, you're gonna test it. If it sucks, gonna go forward or just throw the idea away and probably take another idea. And so on and so forth. So you can super simple, super fast go through the prototyping stage and test games in this particular case. So, if you want to learn how to create different games or different styles of games, you can always go down into the description. There are some courses I have created already for rather different things, like for rather different game ideas I have created beforehand, and so on. And you probably are rather new in case of game design or game creation. Then these courses probably are going to help you out. So just check them out inside the description over there. And of course, if you need help with your project and so on and so forth, or you want me to help you with your course, or not with your course, but well, with your product, with your game, you maybe need something or here and there, just check out my website, which is also linked down below in the description, OctoManGames.com. You can actually hire me to help you out with your problems to solve. We can also go and prototype something together. Everything, once again, is written down on OctoManGames.com. Also, if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, as well as like give it a thumb up if that makes in any case sense for you. And well, yeah, that's probably everything I have to say over here. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them also down below in the comment section, or just for, let's say, the next 2 minutes, I'm gonna await your questions over here inside the chat, so probably I can directly answer them, or just whenever you are looking this one or watching this video later on, once again, to refresh your mind or whatever, then feel free to comment once again down below inside the comment section. So guys, if you have any questions for all the guys which are currently watching the stream, please feel free to write them down in the chat so I can actually react to them and let you know what I think about it, and probably give you some hint, tips, or ideas behind your own game. So let's get into it. Please ask your questions. Nobody has any question. That's actually good, because it seems that you understood the idea behind prototyping so far. That's actually a good idea or a good thing. So I guess I'm gonna wait another minute over here, so when nobody has an idea behind it or any question, of course, then I go and leave you guys alone. And already can tell, yeah, thanks for tuning in over here, and thanks for, yeah, watching my little course or my little, yeah, live stream over here about prototyping games and what we're gonna do or what you need to do over here. No questions. Okay, good guys. Well, thanks a lot for tuning in once again. I hope you enjoyed this one. And yeah, see you in one of my courses probably, or yeah, in one of my other live streams or videos. So take care and have a good one. Enjoy your time. And bye bye.